What's up, YouTube? What's up? What's up? Good to see you guys. Um, I want to talk about something that's driving me crazy, man. And the only way, let me switch the camera around. Me and Mrs. L&L and Pork Chop are on a walk around beautiful Boulder. And the only way I'm going to have time to make this video today is if I do it live on our walk. So that's what we're doing. And I'm going to get right to the point, man. Simeon Price, y'all, got 6 touches last night, only 5 carries. Okay, let's talk about the 5 carries. In 5 carries, Simeon Price averaged over 10 yards a carry. Over 10 yards a carry. Simeon Price got 5 carries, averaged over 10 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown. And he's getting the ball 5 times, and nobody mentions it. Coach Prime doesn't mention it. The press doesn't mention it. Nobody asked him a question in the press conference. They barely talk about it on DNVR after I spammed the chat for like an hour saying, the game turned around when we give the ball to Simeon Price. We give the ball to Simeon Price. The game breaks open, and then he doesn't touch it again, averaging over 10 yards a carry. Okay, what does that have to do with defense? Exactly what's happening to us. When you have somebody who can run the ball, you keep your defense off the field. They stay fresh. They stay fresher than the other defense. It starts to compound. It starts to go the other way. So it's driving me crazy. And I'm here for Coach Prime. Like, that's why I'm a Buffs fan. And to not hear him, Simeon Price should be getting 20 carries minimum a game until his stats change. Is he going to average 10 yards a carry if he touches it 20 times? No. But what would he do? None of us know. How would it change the game? None of us know. Why? And y'all, this is not a unique thing to yesterday's game. Let me pull out the stats here, what he's done in September. Because I looked it up, because I was like, what is going on? And why is nobody talking about this? Okay, I've got these are his stats from last night. And he had 1 reception for 11 yards. So 6 touches, all of them averaging more than a first down. What are we doing? Marshall Faulk, where are you at, bro? Marshall Faulk, man, you were one of the best running backs in the NFL. You're coaching these dudes. How are you not in Coach Prime's ear saying, yo, Simeon is averaging over 10 yards, coach, when if he touches the ball, he's either scoring or getting a first down. Why aren't we going to go with that? Him not getting a minimum of 20 touches is like, I'm like beside myself. And then I'm beside myself because the entire fan base, the entire media base is all missing this because we're talking about the quarterbacks. Anybody can hand the ball to Simeon Price and run it down their throats. Like, whoa. All right, let me see what the chat is saying. Basically, Lady C, BD, the Simeon is legendary. I'm not surprised that they know. I'm surprised how many people are not mentioning it. BD, that's what I'm saying. BD says I swear, I think it's a conspiracy against him. Last night when I was screaming at the TV, I was like, something's going on. He cussed out a coach. But whatever he did, they're going to sacrifice the whole team for it. Like, man, whatever he did, let him do it until he's not averaging 10 yards a carry. Then bench him. I don't care what his attitude is when he's averaging 10 yards a carry. Like, you feed the rock to somebody averaging 10 yards a carry, period, all day, every day. And then your defense stays off the field. They don't get worn out. Because our defense, man, shout out Tawfiq Bayard. Shout out Alexander McPherson, the freshman. Alexander McPherson, a true freshman, is a monster. Monster. London Merritt on the other side, monster. Tawfiq Thomas had himself a game. Martavius French has been consistent, all year, but not giving the ball to Simeon Price when he's averaging over 10 yards a touch. You give it to him 6 times, including a pass, 5 runs to the man averaging 10 yards plus a carry. Coach Prime, explain it to me. Lady C, I hear you, but we have the rotation on defense, but see, they get tired and they get demoralized because they don't have any faith in the offense. They know that the offense has explosive players, and they know that Shermer is not getting them the ball one way or the other. Coach Prime is not getting them the ball one way or the other. They know that they've got to know Simeon Price is that dude, and he's not getting the ball. And so they stay on the field. They get tired. They get demoralized. They start losing 4th downs. And they're like, yo, offense, help us out. And the offense is like, nah, 4 and out, 3 and out. It's giving the ball to a running back who's running like Simeon Price changes everything. Not only does it keep your defense off the field, it opens up the passing for Staub. Okay, that's why the passing started to work in the Delaware game. Lady C says we need military camp practice this week. Lock in, no music, no social media, just running. Man, let me go in there and drill instructor those boys. But that's not even really what they need. What they need, I'm so frustrated because I'm here for Coach Prime, but this is a coaching problem. And I don't know if Coach Prime is just giving Shermer, the same type of leash that he gave Staub to prove himself. I don't know what's going on. I just know when you have a Simeon Price averaging 10 yards a touch, and that's over, for 14 touches in September. So let's take away the 5 touches, or let's add all the other 2 games. In 3 games, Simeon Price has had 14 touches, and he's averaging 7.5 yards over 14 touches. And you're giving it to him. You're giving him 6 touches in this game, 5 runs, 1 pass. The pass went for 11 yards. The 5 runs averaged 10.1 or 10.2. You have to give somebody like that minimum 20 touches a game. Minimum. Maybe 30 if he's rolling and you need to win. And it keeps the defense off the field. It opens up the passing game. It literally changes everything when you can run it down the other team's throat. And we have a guy. Now we can talk about DeKalin too. Let's look at DeKalin yesterday. DeKalin yesterday had 2 carries for 11 yards. That's 5.5 yards a carry. So you've got Simeon Price averaging over 10 per run attempt. You've got DeKalin Taylor averaging 5.5. Somebody help me. What's 5.5 times 3? A first down. So you've got the second highest averaging running back. Guess how many runs DeKalin got last night, y'all? 2. What? Something's going on, man. Something, make it make sense to me in the chat. Let me see what the chat is saying, because you literally have the answer with the stats screaming in your face. We've got no fans talking about it. We've got no coaches talking about it. We've got no Buffs media talking about it. What is going on? What is going on? AG says team needs a total rebrief. Looks like his message got cut off there. Let me scroll back here. AG said that was a game I don't want to remember because it demoralized my being. I was so hopeful. I mean, it demoralized me once we saw Simeon Price open up the game, and then we never went back to him. That's the dude who opened up the whole game. And so then I'm like, whoa, let me look up Simeon Price. Is there, what's going on? Why aren't we giving him the ball? Then I see his stats. And I'm even more beside myself. I'm even more mad because I'm like, how does Marshall Faulk not know this? How is Marshall Faulk not the one in Coach Prime's ear saying, Coach, Simeon's averaging 10 yards every time he touches the ball. We're going to give it to him 20 times until he doesn't. Because let's say that Simeon Price breaks the game open and they start feeding him the rock and he starts losing yards and his average goes down. He gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Then I don't have to make this video today. Then I can say, okay, there's clearly an offensive line problem or this and that. But you have a dude breaking open the game, putting you back in the game on his back, averaging 7.5 yards for 14 carries over 3 games, and you give it to him 5 times. Coach Prime, just help me understand, man. Help me understand, because I am at a loss. And I'm here for Coach Prime. I'm a Coach Prime fan before I'm a Buffs fan. I'm a bandwagon Buff, even though I live in Boulder. We went to Clemson. Don't anybody tell me about the Clemson score, because I'm recording that game to watch when we get home from our walk. BD says, I wonder what happened on that plane ride back to Boulder. I hope Simeon was walking up and down the plane showing everybody his stats. I honestly am making this video in case Simeon Price or his family Googles his own name to be like, I see you, bro. I see Simeon's family. I'm here in Boulder saying, how is this guy not getting the rock? How are you not giving it to, by far and away, the dominant stats player on the offense? Just address it. Maybe there's a reason. But man, if it's a disciplinary reason and you're going to sacrifice the whole team and the win and loss column, maybe whatever you're disciplining Simeon for, maybe he has a point. Maybe we need to lift. What's going on, man? Help me make sense of it. See the chat saying. AG says humility and play ball, no sentiment, no eye service or show off. Yeah, and like when you see Simeon on the sideline in the well-off video, after he scored, he put his arm on Micah and said, Micah, you next. He thanked God. He put his arm on Micah, said, Micah, you're up next. Y'all, Micah's averaging negative yards per carry yesterday. And I love Micah, but like, you follow the evidence, you follow the performance. And maybe Simeon needs to advocate more for himself. Maybe Simeon needs to go to Marshall Faulk and go to Coach Prime and say, I want to be the man to put this team on my back. Look at my stats. Why aren't you feeding me more? I can change this game. I can keep our defense off the field and fresh. I can keep their defense tired, and I can prevent their offense from getting in a rhythm the same way that these teams running it down our throats prevent our offense from getting in a rhythm. Because you guys see the time of possession. Let me look it up. Let me see what the time of possession was here. Give you guys a little shot of where we're walking in Boulder. Okay. Let me see if I can find easily on this ESPN while I'm walking, maybe in the box score. Man, if somebody can help me out with the time of possession, I'm having a hard time finding it while I'm walking. But let's talk about Simeon Price averaging 10.2 yards a carry and giving him 5 carries. That's really what this video is about. I need somebody to explain to me why, or some professional media company, those of you who get, man, these media companies that get access, it's a joke. It's embarrassing, the questions that they ask. I'm not a professional reporter. I'm not a professional media person, but I've been around football my whole life, and I don't understand why anybody would get into the business of reporting on football and know football so poorly and be so spineless. Like, I can be like, Coach Prime, and I wouldn't say this in the press conference, but I'd be like, listen, man, you're my guy. You're the reason I'm here. But I also want to ask you the tough questions that nobody's asking you, so you can get on the record and you can say why Simeon Price isn't getting the ball. And Dion doesn't get mad. Coach Prime doesn't get mad at that. He even said, you don't have to sugarcoat things for me, but they're all scared of him. Why? He might clap back at you if you say something stupid. So he's nice to you again the next day. Like, be a man, be a woman. Ask this man the question. You should know your job well enough to say, Coach Prime, Simeon Price broke the game open and put us back in the game, and then he didn't get the ball again the rest of the game. Why did that happen? That's a fair question, man. Let me see what the chat's saying. Antoine says Coach Prime has to make a decision on Pat Shurmur. The game is past Pat Shurmur. This is why every game has looked the same. Buffs have a lot of talent. Play calling does not fit the talent. So this absolutely, it goes from Simeon to Marshall Faulk to Pat Shurmur to Coach Prime. Like, that's the chain of command. And I want to ask every one of them. If I see Simeon Price around town, I'm going to say, bro, you know what your stats are, right? And he's going to be like, yeah, nobody knows my stats better than me. I know what my stats are. And I'm going to be like, in what world does a running back average 10 yards, over 10 yards a carry, and not get 20 touches a game? What do you think about that, Simeon? And a player can't throw their coach under the bus, but he might say, oh man, I tweaked my hamstring on that 5th run. And then any press reporter doing their job could ask Coach Prime, and he could say, oh, he got a little banged up and we're going to need him for what we think are bigger games. And we thought we could win that, win this, and that. Maybe there's an answer. Whether it makes sense or not, how do we know? Because none of our reporters ask the obvious question. And how is it not obvious when you're getting your ass kicked, all of a sudden you feed this young man the ball and he puts you back in the game on his back? And then you look at his stats and you're like, oh, every time, 1 catch, 11 yards, 5 rushes, 10.2 average, 14 rushes in 3 games, 7.5 yard average. Coach, why isn't he touching the ball 20 times a game? Because it's the other games too. Like in Delaware, just going by the fact that he's had 14 all season, that means he had 9 between Delaware and I'm blanking right now. Like, my mind just on something else. Georgia Tech. So that means he had 9 touches between Delaware and Georgia Tech. He obviously wasn't injured because he played in this game. So how is this man getting this few touches per game? What is going on? Bucky, Darius, Uncle Neely, can you help me out? T-Cal? BD Hall says, I'm in other chats. They say the guys are not disciplined. They party a lot, smoke a lot. I mean, see, BD, we could talk about that if you're giving the dude averaging a first down every time he touches the ball. If you're feeding him the rock and they're still losing, cool, we could talk about all that other stuff. But when you have an obvious winner and you're refusing to give him the ball, I don't even want to hear about any of that other stuff, because I want to see, because I know how you change the game when you can run the ball. When you run the ball, you open up the pass. Immediately, if Simeon Price is slashing them for 7 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, every time he gets the ball, they have to play the run. Now Staub has easy pass matchups with our very talented wide receivers. But when you don't give the ball, and even, okay, if you have a good running back, they should be running a minimum of 20 times a game. Micah, DeKalen, and Simeon combined had 12 runs, 5 for Simeon, 5 for Micah, 2 for DeKalen. Let me see if that's right. 5 for Simeon, 2 for DeKalen, 5. So you're running it 12 times, and you should just be giving it 20 times to your main running back if you have any kind of running game. And last year, obviously, we didn't. So I wasn't going off because I was like, the offensive line, our running backs are smaller. We have Shador, we have Travis. We're getting it done, even though people are frustrated that we're not running it. This year, All the evidence shows that we're a great running team, but we won't do it. And if you want to pass, you run the ball to open up the pass game. So what? This is not on the players, y'all. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this. And again, I'm here for Coach Prime. Coach Prime is the reason that I'm a Buffs fan. But it is a coaching problem. And he needs to clarify for us, is Marshall Faulk not giving him the information to feed Simeon? Is he not doing it because Simeon cussed him out one day? Is Simeon, it doesn't look like Simeon's nursing an injury because he's gotten that low of touches in every game. And then when he gets a touch, he breaks the game wide open. So how does that indicate any kind of injury? But I'm saying, I don't know. Somebody tell me, why isn't it being addressed in the press conference? We had a whole different, BD says we had a whole different team this year, though, and the coaching staff is not up to par, point blank. I just think if you have somebody like Simeon and you give them the ball 20 times a game and you give DeKalen the ball 10, 15 times a game and you focus those screen passes and stuff on Micah Welch, or still get Micah some carry, but you go with the guys who are getting you yardages, it would have changed every single game. It would have changed the Georgia. They're not getting blown out. I mean, yesterday they never really had a chance, but as soon as they gave the ball to Simeon, they had a chance. They were in the game, and then they stopped. And then they stopped having a chance. I firmly believe that the time of possession is what is killing our defense. And the way that you cure time of possession is running the ball. The way you open up throwing high value passes is running the ball. And again, don't run the ball if you can't. But this dude's averaging a first down every time he touches it. And that's really all I made this video to say. I hope Simeon Price's family sees this. I hope he sees this. I hope DNVR sees this. I hope any of the people with media passes see this and latch onto this question and say, why aren't we giving the ball to Simeon Price 20 times a game? HT says Salter should have stayed starting and we can't get away from the run. Again, anybody could hand the ball to Simeon Price. And when you're averaging 10 yards a carry, show me that you can't do that 20 or 30 times a game before I start blaming anything on any other players. Because in my opinion, you don't have to change anything else on the team except for give this man the ball 20 times a game, and I think we win all 3 games. I think we blow Delaware out by extra 2 touchdowns. I think we beat Georgia Tech. I think we beat Houston because of what running the ball does. It opens up the passing. Both of those things together give you long, productive offensive drives. They give you field goals like Houston had, and they let your defense rest. And they give your defense a reason to come out hungry. Lisa says, I hope they don't jump in the portal. Me too. That's another reason I'm making this video, Lisa, because this is coaching malpractice one way or the other. It's diabolical. It's wild. At the end of the day, this is a coaching mistake. As a fan of Coach Prime first, and this is why I want a media pass, because none of the people in there have the spine to ask him reasonable questions. He is not going to be mad if somebody asks him this question. One way or another, he has an answer for it. Maybe the answer is, what? He's averaging 10 yards a carry? There's multiple analysts on the team. Their job is to give, relevant stats like that and help with timeout decisions, which, it looks like we could use some better analysts on our team. But I want to ask Coach Prime because it starts at the top. And why didn't any of these reporters last night say, hey, you had a guy that put you immediately into the game. I'm looking at his stats here. He averaged over 10 yards a carry. Why do you only give it to him 5 times? And none of them asked that. Not one professional making their living. Y'all, I couldn't make this video today if I didn't do it on a walk. I'm doing this on a walk. This is their job. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the fans. It's embarrassing to the school. It's embarrassing to Coach Prime as a Hall of Famer. It's embarrassing to the players as young men who are putting their faith in a Hall of Fame coaching staff to make reasonable decisions. This is not hard, y'all. This is not a big-brained meta football analysis. It's like you have a young man who is devastating defenses when he has the ball. You guys saw that jump with Delaware. Like, also, let me tell you this, standing next to DeKalen, standing next to Micah, standing next to Simeon. Simeon is way bigger and stronger, but looks just as fast. I mean, maybe a couple of steps slower because Micah and DeKalen are so fast. Simeon is the only one of them significantly bigger than me. DeKalen and Micah are more like my size. I mean, bigger, stronger legs. I'm not saying I could do what they do because I couldn't. That's why I'm doing this. However, he's bigger, stronger, producing like on a God level tier of running backs. If your running back is average, what did Genty average per carry? Probably not 10 yards. Man, let me see what the chat's saying. Go Tigers says, yes, he's so good. Stood out like a bright light yesterday, Simeon Price. And then when you see that bright light and they don't give him the ball anymore and you don't ask why, that's crazy. That's crazy. It should have been the only thing they talked about on DNVR last night. That's all you need to say. That's the only question that needs to be asked to Coach Prime. What is this reason? Because the running game changes everything. It changes the whole game. It starts with time of possession. It opens up the passing game. It gives the defense rest. It gives the defense a reason to come in the game hungry. Oh, Lisa says there were a lot of recruits there. That breaks my heart because I don't want to talk bad on my guys, y'all. I don't want to, but I got to tell you the truth. I got to because I'm not a professional, because this is a hobby as a fan. This is a real fan who lives in Boulder. Obviously, I'm walking around Boulder. This is a real point of view. And Coach Prime, you're my guy. You're the reason that I'm here. This is beneath you, man. But you know that. But why aren't you leading with pointing out Simeon, Coach Prime? HTX says Byron Leftwich should be the new OC. Whoever's, I want to say it like smart enough, but it's not even a smart thing. Whoever is not going to miss the obvious that when you give Simeon Price, why do I always want to say Rice? Maybe it's easier to not pronounce the P. Why do you not want to give a man averaging over a first down per touch the rock as much as he wants it, at least 20 times a game? I mean, it's not Staubachage. If you give Simeon Price the ball and he starts slashing the defense for 10, 7, 5 yards a carry, every pass play opens up. Salter, Staub, or Juju could throw the ball with a running back carrying the ball 20 to 30 times a game, averaging 5 yards a carry. They're going to run and throw in that instance all over everybody. So just somebody help me understand. I know we have a lot of opinions. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this. Help me understand the one fact of you have a young man averaging over 10 yards a carry and you don't give him the ball in the second half. Just help me understand that, like, in what world? Because there is a reason. The reason could be, we're incompetent and we didn't even notice that. The reason could be, well, Simeon cussed out one of the coaches, so he's under disciplinary restriction. It could be, which I don't think. He looks like in person one of the nicest, most positive, happiest young men on the team. And if you saw the well-off video, when he scored, what he did is he went over to the sideline and he thanked God and he put his arm around Micah and said, "You next, my boy, you next." So I really have a hard time picturing that kid has a discipline problem. So what is it? Just help me understand how you have a dude averaging over 10 yards a carry and you don't give him the ball in the second half when you're getting your ass kicked. Now, we don't have the ball the whole third quarter because you go 3 and out when you get out there. Why didn't you give Simeon the ball then? He had right before the half been the dude who broke the game open. Why don't you come back first play of the game, handoff, Simeon Rice. He gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Handoff, Simeon Rice runs for 2 yards. Okay, then I have nothing to say. But it's so obvious. And okay, maybe you come back from halftime and you're like, oh, that's what they're going to expect us to do, so we're going to do something different. Okay, then when you get the ball the second time, you're like, well, that didn't work, so let's give it to the dude slashing the defense. But they don't. And I don't understand. HTX says, also, I think if coach isn't going to make the change at OC, then I think Pat needs to come down from the booth and call the play on the sidelines. I'm open to all of that. I just need to understand why who's not giving Simeon Price the ball and why. And then we could talk about everything else, because there is a lot to discuss in the Pat Shurmur situation. There is a lot to discuss in the Caden Salter situation. One thing I may, Lisa says Simeon Price comes off very intelligent. Again, I agree. Seeing him in person, seeing him in the press conferences, it seems like this is the exact type of dude you want on your team. He's performing better than any running back that we've had in the Coach Prime era, by far, by such a wide margin. Coach Prime, if you prayed for a running back, how is it not Simeon Price? If you're a praying man, and last year you won a running game, and again, DeKalen averaging 5.5 yards a carry, and he got 2. Lisa says he said he wanted to be there in the press conference. I'm not sure which press conference you're talking about. Are you not last night, so a different game? Boulder's a great place to be. You would think that the coaching staff with the most Hall of Fame players in a way that's not even close in college football would be also the place to be. When you see decisions like yesterday, it just throws a wrench in everything for the recruits, for the players who are here, for the fans, for the media. I'm honestly asking Coach Prime, why would you not give Simeon the ball in the second half? Help me understand. I felt like when Shurmur did a press conference and he didn't even explain. I thought he was about to get assaulted with questions. And then our super soft professional media corps, they give Shurmur the easiest little baby questions ever. And he starts talking and going on his own script. And he kind of won me over. I was kind of thinking, okay, what I'm hearing from Shurmur is, to me, it sounds like Juju and Salter are throwing interceptions in practice, and they don't want to throw these guys under the bus. They don't want to say to the media, these guys aren't quite up to speed yet. They don't want to say anything about why they're not up to speed. But I'm guessing, I'm like hearing Shurmur, it sounds like he really cares about all these dudes. And when Staub came in the game, the play calling was different. And Shurmur said that's because Staub calls his own plays. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you're telling me that Salter and Juju don't know the playbook and the audibles and the defensive reading as well as Staub yet. And so you're willing to open up the playbook with Staub because he understands everything like Shador did on an intellectual, mental level. But I'm at a loss for any offensive coordinator who has a running back putting up God-tier running back statistics and they don't give him the ball. like I immediately re-question everything again. I'm like, oh, like Marshall Faulk, Pat Shurmur, Coach Prime, explain this to me. When Shurmur explained to me why Staub got the start, I was like, I was ready to fire him. And after he explained it, I was like, you know what? I think he has a point. Let's see how it goes. So I'm open to hearing explanations. I think there was at least logic in Shurmur's explanation if it's true that Juju and Caden, when they throw, slants or double moves or slant goes or posts, all these passes we want to see, go routes, if they're throwing tons of interceptions in practice, then you just don't want to throw them under the bus because that, like, hey, eventually they're going to get there, but we can't, if we put them out like this right now, they're going to get picked off. The media is going to tear them apart and it's going to ruin their confidence. Okay, I hear you, Pat. That makes sense. I'll give you another week. But then last night, you give the ball to Simeon Price. He puts you back in the game, averages over 10 yards a carry, and you never go back to him. Y'all remember the unforgivable video? Unforgivable. Somebody has to answer for that. Somebody show this video to Simeon Price's family so that they know, those of us who live here and are, paying attention as closely as possible. I can't imagine Simeon Price's family watching that game on TV. I would have been sick. If he was my son, if he was my brother, if he was my cousin, oh my goodness. I'd have been making this video from their point of view. If I was his dad, I would have made a video last night. But you can't do that because then you hurt your kid politically. So that's why I'm here. I will make the video and say, man, you having somebody like Simeon Price and disrespecting him like that's a weird game to play if you want to win, man. That is a weird game to play, Coach Prime, if you want to win. Again, 1-2 says, 1-2 is going to have to get blocked. Bye, 1-2. We got zero tolerance policy for anything like that on this channel. I'm not going to give you a warning. I'll just block you immediately. I don't want any racists or Nazis or anybody like that even watching this channel. So it's just goodbye. You're gone. Thank you for revealing yourself. We appreciate it. Now back to Simeon Price. BD said he was trying to say that's why he wasn't. I was mad at first, but then I understood his logic. So yeah, BD, you're talking about Pat Shurmur. That's how I was mad, and I was like, Pat Shurmur's got to go after the Delaware game. Y'all heard me on the live stream. Then I went home and I listened to his press conference, and he won me over a little bit because I'm like, man, if Pat Shurmur's willing to take the heat for these young men, that is actually an admirable, respectable thing. If he's trying to shield them because he knows that he can get them dialed in and it's a matter of time, and he doesn't want to shake their confidence and he doesn't want to expose their flaws to the world, I respect that about Pat Shurmur, if that is the truth. And I still believe you could have Salter or Staub if you run the ball well, because if you run the ball well, the defense can't play the pass on every single play. Play the pass on every play puts the pressure so much on a quarterback, so much on the wide receiver, so much on the offensive line. It wears people down. They get tired. They get demoralized. They're like, especially when you know you're more talented than another team and you're losing to them, that really messes with the team psychology. And what happens is they start doubting their coaches and they start talking gossip in the locker room, and factions develop, divisions develop, and man, it's toxic. And that's why you follow the person who's putting up the stats, because nobody can argue with what you're doing as a coach. If Micah's like, Coach, why are you giving DeKalin and Simeon all the runs? And he says, bro, they're averaging 5.5 and 10 yards a carry, and you're averaging -2. That's why. Nobody can say anything. But when you're Simeon, or you're Simeon's friend, or you're his family, and you say, why isn't he getting more touches? And it's like, I don't know. The dude who got the same amount of touches as him is averaging negative yards per play, and Simeon's averaging 10 yards per play, and they get the ball the same amount. That's when bad stuff happens, because there's nothing objective for the coaches to point to and say, here's why Simeon only got the ball 5 times and Micah only got the ball 5 times, and our running backs collectively got 12 carries when one of them is averaging 5.5 yards a carry and one is averaging 10.2. Man. Go Tigers Hoop said Simeon Price sat in the transfer portal for 6 months, 2 different times. He has a dog inside him. He's always praising God. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him too. And that's why I'm making this video, because it was tearing me up last night watching all of the live shows and the press conferences, and 0 people mentioned Simeon Price. DNVR mentioned Simeon Price after I literally spammed the chat for an hour and a half saying Simeon Price averaged over 10 yards a carry. He only got 5 touches. WTF. I'm literally spamming the chat. And at the end, they're like, they look at his stats and they're like, oh, man, this is your job, man. Come on, man. You were in the press conference with Coach Prime. You could have asked this question. Man, we want to know. Lisa says, I hope nobody snatched him up. That goes for all our good players. We have brought so many talented dudes here, and to be playing them in the scheme and the way that we are is malpractice one way or the other. And again, I'm here for Coach Prime. I'm more of a fan of Coach Prime than I am the Buffs, but I need Coach Prime to explain this to me. And he needs to explain it to the team, their parents, everybody, to give everybody the impression that he gets it, that he's like, listen, this is why this happened. Maybe there's a reason, like Shermer had. And we can be like, okay, because I still in my head think, man, he's the GOAT. He's the Hall of Famer. He knows better than me. There's a reason. I'm having a hard time figuring out what the reason could be, and I need somebody to help me. Nobody in this chat has said, hey, maybe Simeon. Nobody knows. Nobody can even guess why a man averaging over 10 yards a carry is getting the ball 5 times in a game when he should be getting it minimum 20. And when the thing that you're lacking in the game is keeping your offense on the field, and nothing changes that more than effective running of the ball. It opens up passing. It keeps your defense off the field and fresh. It gets your defense amped up on the sideline, watching first down after first down, cheering. Now they're hungry when they come back in the game, because they're like, yeah, offense just did their thing. Now we're going to do our thing. Instead, the defense is like, yo, we're the only ones playing tonight. And they're getting 4th and 1s on us. Our coach can't figure it out. Every time we get close, they demoralize us and get another first down. The offense ain't doing shit. What are we doing? And you saw that look on their faces, man. But man, let's stop and praise the ones who never gave an inch, like the freshman Alexander McPherson. Alexander McPherson, these flowers are for you, my guy. Tawfiq Bayard, even more so. These flowers, all the flowers for you, Tawfiq Bayard. Oh my goodness. Wow. Like, DJ, I think you had one sus play yesterday, but otherwise you don't hear DJ McKinney's name a lot in games unless he's picking off a pass, because that young man does his job every game. Ben Finiseth, awesome game. Caleb Mathis had a amazing special team punt play along with Mate to get that down on the 1 or 2 yard line, with Isaiah Harge was down there too. So Tawfiq Thomas had a good game on the line. London Merritt looks vicious as a true freshman every time he comes in on the other side of Alexander McPherson. Martavius French is a dog. Reggie Hughes is a dog. He didn't have the best night last night, but we would have won that game if we would have fed Simeon Price the rock, and I stand on that until you give him 20 carries a game and prove me wrong. Because I just stand on the stats. All I got to do is say in 3 games, he's got 14 touches, less than 5 per game. And in all of those, he's averaging 7.5 yards per run. Over 14 touches in 3 games. 3 different teams. And yesterday, 5 touches, 10.2 yards per run, 1 pass for 11 yards, never giving the ball again. Stop touching the ball. He might have gotten 1 touch in the whole second half. That's coaching malpractice. The players know it. The families know it. Coach Prime, you can't beat around the bush. You got to address this head on. You got to say, listen, we've got some player issues, this and that, but the biggest issue hurting this team right now is coaching, and I'm going to acknowledge that, and I'm going to fix it. That's like what I need to hear, Coach Prime. And I'm ride or die. I'm going to be a fan of you for life, Coach Prime, no matter what, unless you change up as a person. Because I'm a fan of the person that Coach Prime is, the love and dedication he has in his heart towards these players, towards everything he does. But you've got to address this, man. You've got to explain how you have a God-tier stat-level running back and you're giving him 5 carries a game. You got to explain that, Coach Prime. You have to. I can't take anything else at face value or seriously until you say why literally the answer to last year's problems is dropped in your lap times 2, and you give Simeon 5 carries, DeKalen 2. DeKalen averages 5.5 yards per carry last night, gets only 2 carries. Beating the bush till Coach Prime answers that Simeon averaged over 10. And Micah got 5 carries and averaged negative yards. And I know Micah can have his games. I'm a big fan of Micah. I think if Micah hadn't got injured in the Kansas game last year, early in the game, they would have had a chance to do the same thing against Kansas last year. So I'm a Micah fan, but you go with a back who's producing yards. And it's obvious who it is. It's not even close. It is 1, 2, 3. In the stats, as clear as day. I don't have to say which of these running backs I like more. I'm like, I like the stats. I like the running back who's getting the most yards per carry until they don't. And obviously, guys, I still like them as people. I know that you can turn it around in a month, in a week. You can figure something out. You can get a little mental edge, some confidence, and all of a sudden you start doing your thing. But the person doing their thing right now is Simeon Price. And 5 touches to a dude averaging over 10 yards a carry is malpractice. It's borderline unethical. When you think about how a running back puts their body on the line as much as maybe any other player, I mean, quarterbacks and running backs, obviously wide receivers going over the middle, linemen, get their knees run up on. Everybody's putting their body on the line. But the running backs are throwing themselves into a gauntlet on every play. And one dude is doing it in literally like what was Genty's average? If somebody can look up Genty's yards per carry last year and tell me what his average was, obviously the average is going to go down the more carries you get. But if we're just talking about averaging 10 yards a carry, that's Heisman level. That's Heisman level skill. And running against Georgia Tech ain't easy. They say Delaware is a tough team. Being there in person, seeing them next to our guys were much bigger, but Delaware was not small. They're not a small team, and they had that dog in them. They had that desire to prove everybody wrong type spirit that you need in a scrappy underdog. So again, he's getting less than 5 carries a game against all 3 of those teams, but he's averaging over 14 season carries, 7.5 yards. What did Genty average? You've got somebody of an elite caliber. What did Panda Bear say? Panda says, bro, the playbook was not designed like that. Bro, it's player design runs. It's not good, but that's on Pat and position coach. It's absolutely on Marshall Falk. I said that before you came in the chat, Panda. I said it goes Simeon, Marshall Falk, Pat Shermer, Coach Prime. That's the chain of command. I would ask them all. If I see Simeon Price in public, I'm going to be like, bro, why are they not getting you the ball? You know what your stats are, bro? And he's going to be like, are you serious, man? Nobody knows my stats better. Like, every player knows their stats. And if you're a running back and you know that you're going 10 yards down the field every time you touch the ball this season, and they're giving you the ball, again, baseline for a good running back should be 20 carries a game. That should be the bottom level. If it's maybe 18, but if it goes below 18, it's back to coaching malpractice. Until he proves you wrong. Give Simeon Price 20 carries, let him average 1 yard a carry. Nobody will have anything to say, but you can't not give him the ball and expect people not to talk about it when he's putting numbers up like that. But then nobody does talk about it. Not one person in the press conference, none of the shows last night till I spammed DNVR for an hour saying Simeon Price, Simeon Price, Simeon Price. I didn't see it anywhere today. And again, y'all, this is the only way I had time to make this video today was if I did it live, and I just had to get this out here. Simeon Price, where is he? Why aren't we giving him the ball? Panda Bear, you can't say the line has zero movement when Simeon Price is averaging over 10 yards a run. If you feed him the ball and he stops averaging like that, then we can talk about the line. But the line gets demoralized because Panda, DeKalen averaged 5.5 yards for 2 carries. 2 carries. Simeon averaged over 10 yards for 5 carries. That's 7 carries, bro. That's 7 carries between 2 of them. Your first running back should be getting 20 to 30, and your second string should be getting 10, 12, 15. There should be 30, 35, 40 attempts in the game if you're demonstrating the ability to run the ball. Now, if they are not averaging 5.5 yards a carry, 10 yards a carry, then we can talk about the line. But I just know that if any of these linemen were standing here and I read them your comment, they're going to be like, what are you talking about, bro? We're just not running it. We can run it. They're proving that in the stats. Look at the running stats for DeKalen and Simeon over the year. And Selmo, this is the whole point. When you can run the ball, you can pass the ball. When you can run and pass the ball, you keep your defense off the field. You keep them fresh and you keep them in the game because they're watching the offense drive down the field. They're watching them get first downs. They're watching the team be in the game. Our defense is coming in the game being like, we're the only part of our team playing today. We're playing 3 times more minutes than the offense. They're not helping us out. We're getting 4th and 1s run on us every series. They get demoralized, and it becomes harder to tackle psychologically when you feel like you're not in the game. So while I'm not disagreeing with you, what I'm saying is you fix the obvious thing first, because there is a chance that you fix the glaringly obvious thing and all of these other things fall into place. Panda saying, I'm not disagreeing, I'm saying runs are predictable. I mean, you could predict for many years that Alabama and Georgia were going to run the ball down your throat. It didn't stop them. And it doesn't look like Simeon Price can be stopped. Show me that he can be stopped when you feed him the rock, and then we can talk about other things. But you have to address the obvious thing first. The obvious thing is you have a young man who might be Heisman level talent, at least win game level talent, like put the team on your back and carry the game level talent, and you're giving it to him 5 times in a game, and one pass that went for 11 yards. So I need you to explain to me somebody. I'm going to keep walking around a little bit. Okay. Let me get Miss Ellenell the key to the house. because we have finished our walk, but I want to hang out with the chat just a couple more minutes, and then we will wrap this up, because all this video is about today is saying, I know we have other issues. I know there's a lot of things to talk about, but you've got an obvious issue that nobody's even mentioning. Nobody mentioned Simeon Price in the presser last night. Nobody mentioned it on any of the post-game live streams. And I'm saying, why? It is the most obvious solution that we basically prayed for last year. Please give us a running game, because we've got an amazing passing game, and our passing game can't even be as amazing as it truly is because they know we're going to throw it every play. If you run the ball with Simeon and he's getting 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, you can pass it, and then you can start to do whatever they're not expecting, because they have to respect both. Panda says, I'm saying draw runs where wide receivers block, use the damn tight end. 100% I agree with you, Panda. 100% I agree with you. I just don't think right now it doesn't look like it matters how you give Simeon the ball. You give Simeon the ball here, there, and everywhere, and he gets 10 yards. I love committed running plays where the wide receivers are blocking and big old Zach Atkins is in there blocking. I love that. I'm with you all day. No disagreement, but I'm still stopping one short of there and just saying, why aren't you getting his touches up? Why aren't they above 10? They should be 20. Why are they 5? Why are they 14 over 3 games? Shermer had to answer for why the quarterback situation, and he gave an answer that at least had some reason behind it, which, if you weren't here when we talked about in the chat, the reason that could be true that makes me be like, okay, Shermer, I hear you, is if Salter, and he didn't say this, he implied without saying that maybe Salter and Juju are throwing some picks or looking real shaky in practice, but he's not going to throw them under the bus. He's not going to say that. He's not going to put them out there with those type of plays where they can get picked off and the media can start picking them apart and going in on them. He gave the vibe that he's protecting Juju and Salter, and that Staub can open up the playbook because Staub calls his own plays. So it's like, if that's true, Coach Shermer, that makes sense. If Salter needs to learn the playbook more, if he needs to up his defensive reading ability, and Staub's there, okay, that's a reasonable, but where is the reasonable answer for why Simeon Price is getting so few touches? Where is the logic, the explanation, even addressing it as an issue? It hasn't even been brought up as an issue, and it's crazy. Simeon Price's family, if you ever see this video, I can only imagine how you feel. If it was my son out there having a chance to make his name on these national TV games, and every time he got the ball, he was doing what Simeon has been doing, and they weren't giving him the ball, man, I would be beside myself. It's a bad look. It's a bad look, Buffs. It's a bad look, Coach Prime. I disagree. They brought no one in to create plays around his style of play. I'm just back to Simeon. If Simeon averages 10 yards a carry and DeKalen's averaging 5.5 yards a carry, you can literally just feed those two the rock the whole game and you're going to win. Because every third, fourth, fifth, sixth, every now and then you throw in a good double move or a slant and go or a go route after you've been pounding the ball with Simeon and DeKalen, throwing little screens to Micah just to keep them on their toes, even if those plays don't go anywhere. Panda's talking about Salter and not having the playbook to complement Salter. 100%. 100%. Again, there's a lot of issues we can agree on, but these are not the most obvious number one issues that Coach Prime should be addressing, in my opinion. Because Salter, if Coach Shermer is telling the truth that the players can call their own plays, why can't Salter in the offseason have told Shermer, yo, these are all the plays I'm good at. This is what I want to run. Maybe he doesn't feel like he has that authority. But Shedeur wouldn't shy away from saying that. Staub obviously didn't shy away from doing that. So maybe Caden needs a little bit more communication. Obviously, they don't have the playbook to complement Caden. I give you that. And that is a problem. And it's a disservice to the team, because if you really used Caden to his ability with Simeon Price, ooh, that's the team I was expecting to see this year, y'all. That's the team I was expecting to see, because if you use Caden and Simeon to their full ability and their full complements, we're not getting crushed in time of possession. Our defense isn't getting worn out and demoralized. The team isn't second guessing the Hall of Fame coaching staff that they should have nothing but trust in. But who could blame them after these games to have doubts? I mean, I'm an adult. I've been watching Coach Prime my whole life, watched his entire career, probably every game he played, especially after he got traded from the Falcons to the 49ers, because I was young, real young, when he played for the Falcons. But my grandfather loved the Falcons, and that's where I first started seeing Deion Sanders, being a little kid watching football with my grandfather, and he would point out, Coach Prime to me back then and be like, watch 21, watch Deion Sanders, watch Prime Time. And my grandfather loved Coach Prime. And then, it went on from there. So, like, I hate saying anything negative. But Coach Prime is a grown man. He's as confident as anybody. He can answer a question. You guys in the professional press corps, ask good questions. Stop being so spineless, man. What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? Coach Prime is scary in that he will go back and forth with you. He'll call you out, if you're on some BS. But who cares, man? Don't be on BS the next day. He doesn't hold grudges. If you're a decent person and you're not one of these people constantly attacking his family and saying wild, out of bounds things, Coach Prime can take a tough question, and none of our CU press will ask. It's so annoying, man. It's disappointing. Go Tigers says, exactly, that's what I want to see. Salter and Simeon with the new OC. I would love to see Simeon get 20 to 30 carries and them change nothing else. Keep Staub in the game one more game against Wyoming. It's Wyoming. Keep Staub in the game against Wyoming. Give Simeon 20 to 30 carries and see what happens. I bet you they blow them out. But they're not going to do that. I already know. You know how I know? Because they don't even know that Simeon Price is an issue. And that's what's crazy to me. That's why I had to make this video. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, because all I came here to say is, if Simeon Price sees this, if Simeon Price's family sees this, you guys can't make this video. I understand there's politics and whatnot involved. But as a ride or die Buffs fan who lives here in Boulder, I was screaming last night the way you guys must have been as a family. After Simeon comes in, puts us back in the game on his back, and we never give him the ball again, or maybe one carry in garbage time. I can only imagine how all of you would feel, and it's not right. It's crazy. And then to see nobody mentioning it, because if I was his family and I was watching that game, I'd be like, oh, every question in the press is going to be, yo, why did you stop giving it to the guy who broke the game open? He was averaging over 10 yards a touch. 5 runs, 10.2 yards a carry, 1 pass, 11 yards. Why do you stop? And then being his family and watching nobody mention that, whoa, man, that's too much. That's crazy. So that's what this video is about. And again, I think the running game opens the passing game. I think when the running game opens the passing game, your offense stays on the field. You dominate time of possession instead of having time of possession dominated by the other team that keeps happening to us. And then your defense comes on the field fresh and hungry to play. So I truly believe effective running changes everything that's going wrong. That's what this video is about. And so the last thing, because I've given Simeon Price all the recognition and flowers, is the dudes that I saw on the defense that never, ever quit. And let's put Jordan Seaton in there on the offense, man. Jordan Seaton, I could just make a video after every game about your intensity, your dedication, the way he plays, the type of leader he is on the sideline. And I see that in young 98 freshman, true freshman, Alexander McPherson. Whoa, buddy. And he's being productive on defense, and they're putting him in the game and giving him plays. So how are we missing Simeon Price? London Merritt on the other side, also looking like, man, please don't lose these boys. Please don't. And Tawfiq Bayard, however you pronounce it. Bro, never quit, hitting the whole game like it was his job. Lady C says we need military practice all week. Something, Lady C. Something. If the military will come in and say, hey, coaches, because while I hear you, I'm stuck on that the running game changes everything, and that they could literally do everything the same this week, and they could just give Simeon Price 20 carries. They could give DeKalen 10 carries. They could give Micah 5 to 8 carries. All the rest of the plays are passes. I think all of those passes are going to be monumentally more successful because now a team is expecting and respecting your run game. And now the defense is not on the field the whole game playing by themselves. So I'm not disagreeing with what any of y'all are saying. I'm just saying, can we fix the obvious thing first? Feed Simeon Price the ball. Feed Simeon Price the ball. Feed Simeon Price the ball. All right, y'all. It's love and liberty. It was good hanging out with y'all this morning. I'm going to go watch my Clemson Tigers. That's where me and Miss L&L went to school. I got to jump off this before any of you tell me the score because I recorded it. I don't know the score. Don't want to know. Yeah. All right, guys. Hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Good weekend. We'll see you next week. Much love. Peace out.